I am currently wearing my joggers in the description. We're doing the dressage test B95 2012 and fingers crossed for a good test. So I've just finished warming up for the dressage now. There's a lot of very nice horses here, annoyingly, and I'm in Arena 4, so I really hope that he's a good boy and listening. My last test was at Little Downham and he just lost a bit of concentration. So my main aim for today's test is to keep his concentration throughout the whole of the test. I think it's a spooky arena. So this test is the 2012 B95. I think I already did this dressage test for Little Downham, and at Burnham Market it was the same one. So Ruffian actually came down the centre line really straight, which I was really pleased with. And actually I remember him coming around the corner and I think a fly flew into his face, so he shook his head a little bit, but then it went across the diagonal really nicely, a really good rhythm. And I remember coming around the corner around A and thinking that the dressage arena was actually a little bit on a downhill slope, so I was a bit worried about Ruffian then going on to his forehand. And then coming round to the half 20-metre circles round to X and then round to C, Ruffian had a really nice balanced trot and was really supple and listening to me, which then made our canter transition a little easier, but again it was a little bit on a downhill slope, so he struggled to get into canter, but nevertheless he did a beautiful 20-metre circle. But I did find in both canters Ruffian was a little bit behind the vertical, which he sometimes does this when he's really relaxed, and it's really annoying because I try and push him into contact. And then as you saw, the downwards trot transition between K and A, he had a very unlucky slip, but then he regained his balance and then did another really lovely half 20-metre circle to X and then round to C. This test was really lovely and symmetrical, just popping into canter, and then again another lovely 20-metre circle, but trying to push him up through into contact so he's not behind the vertical. I think his canter on the right rein was much nicer than on the left, and then again coming out of that 20-metre circle, just dropping behind the vertical a little bit, but a much better downwards transition to trot. Then because Ruffian has such a big couple of strides of trot in the downwards transition, it's really hard to balance him quick enough for then the downwards transition to walk. But then on the other side, Ruffian can be really lazy in the walk transition. So there I was just keeping my leg on, and he actually almost broke into trot, but luckily managed to keep a lid on it and did a beautiful free walk on a long rein, just making sure that Ruffian keeps a really nice rhythm and is stepping through in his walk. I'm very lucky with Ruffian's walk because he naturally has quite a long stride, and then quietly gathering my reins up to the medium walk and then turning up the centre line, where I have to prepare Ruffian for a upwards trot transition at D, making sure he stays nice and straight down the centre line, ready for his halt and salute at G. And because Ruffian's so long, I really struggle keeping him straight and still when we halt, and in this test he actually did one of his better halts, so I was really pleased with him through this test. Excuse the wind if you can't hear me properly, but I've just finished that dressage test. We had one trip into the downwards trot transition from the canter on the left rein, I believe. Apart from that, I was really happy with the test. He concentrated really well, despite the fact there was a really low branch over A, and it was kept like rustling in the wind, so I thought he was going to be a bit spooky, but he was super duper. It was quite an unlevel dressage arena, it was quite downhill a lot of the test, and he struggles quite a lot to keep himself collected, so I was a bit worried that he was going to go down on his forehand, but he actually did a really lovely test, and I can't wait to see what the marks going to be. Right, so we're now ready for show jumping. Ruffian looks less than enthusiastic. I've actually found out my front show jump boots broke, so I'm actually now show jumping in my cross-country front boots, which is a bit annoying. The show jumping looks really tough. I haven't actually seen anyone go clear yet, so I'm a bit nervous going into it, but fingers crossed that we just get a nice, maybe clear, nice round around the show jumping before the cross-country. So as you just saw, Ruffian had a complete meltdown in the show jumping warm-up. He really didn't like the flags along the outside of the show jumping arena, which resulted in him being quite spicy and jumping the first 2 fences huge, and then again jumping the 3rd fence, which was directly below the flags, massive. And then I hardly had any control going around the corner to the 4th fence, but he actually jumped it super nicely, and then landing on the right lead leg going around to the 5th fence. And I really had to work throughout this whole course just to try and keep a lid on him. He was jumping really scopy. He was really stressed out by the noise the flags were making. And then Ruffian jumping the 7th fence and landing a little bit disunited. So then around by where the ambulance is, I brought him back down to trot and then just balanced him ready for the 8th fence, which was actually quite a decent sized spread, but he jumped that really well. And then just coming down to the final 2 fences, which was a 2-strided double, and he jumped a beautiful clear round despite not wanting to go into the arena to start with. So I have now just finished the show jumping and I've just done a quick change around for the cross country. I was so nervous for the show jumping. He threw a complete hissy fit in the warm-up because the flags around the outside of the arena were really spooky. They made a clunking noise that he hated. Could hardly get him into the arena, but then once he was in, he was very spooky, which actually I think complemented his scopy jump, and we jumped, I think, a beautiful clear round, and we are on a dressage score of 27.8, which I think we're in the lead, which makes me really nervous going into cross country. But I've got my watch on, not expecting too much time-wise. I'd actually just quite like to get home without falling off, and fingers crossed for a really safe round. And then heading into the cross country, Ruffian jumps the 3rd fence, which you can see really well, and then having a nice long gallop all the way around to the 4th fence. And I was super lucky because my dad was able to get the majority of our cross country round on video. Ruffian coming around to the 4th fence and jumping right out of stride, which was lovely. Then just galloping around to our first combination on course, which was fence 5 A and B, and this was just a double set of logs with just 2 strides in between them. And then jumping fence 6, which was a little white fence, jumping into the shaded area under the trees. And then fence 7 was sort of a ski slope jump with a bit of a ditch underneath it. Actually, I wouldn't quite call it a trachena, but it had a ditch under it, out of the shade. And then hopping through our next combination very confidently and nice and straight over the skinny. And here is where we had a slight problem, which was a step down and then a little roll top. And as you can see, Ruffian just took a disliking to it and had a mini rear, and then the second time just hopped down it, no problem. And this mistake did sadly cost us the win in our section, and it's really annoying because Ruffian never has a problem doing it the second time. It's just the first time he just doesn't seem to have the confidence to do it. And then obviously all the practice we've had at Newmarket Racecourse kicked in, and he galloped all the way back up the hill round to fence 13. And it's such a shame because after that little hiccup at the step, Ruffian was jumping really beautifully out of stride and was feeling great. This course was definitely more hilly than I thought, and then coming up to the water, Ruffian always just slams the brakes on and then likes to walk/trot through the water, but then once he's through it, he jumps out and then jumps over that little house really nicely coming out of the water. But I think with Ruffian, it's all about his confidence, and I think this will come over time with lots and lots of practice and just sort of getting out there and going to as many events as possible, and hopefully he should become a very good cross-country horse, because I can definitely see potential in him going around parts of the cross-country course, but obviously as you can see there's other parts where he's very green and inexperienced. And then Ruffian just popping over the last combination really confidently. He tried really hard and was a very good boy. Right, so we just finished the cross-country. He was a really good boy. We were up on the clock actually. We got 0.8 time faults, and we had barely a stop at the step down. He basically looked at it, did a mini rear and then hopped off it without turning a circle or anything, so it was really annoying. It was hardly a 20 penalty, but it was a much better round. It wasn't a too technical course though this time, so I found it was quite a lot of just open jumps, which suits him really well. And then when it comes to a combination, his brain just kind of shuts down, and he can't think quick enough to get his feet in the right place. So when he did that step off, he wasn't too sure. It will come with experience, but It's so annoying because we were leading after the dressage and the show jumping. Oh well, that's eventing. For us, that's the end of the event season. I'm taking Ruffian to university with me, which I'm very excited about. And he is a really good boy all season. Obviously I need to work a lot on our cross country because I think every event actually we've been first after the show jumping going into the cross country, the final stage. So it's really disappointing to get round and then having to stop falling off out on the cross country knowing that we couldn't come home first. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. So we've now just got back home nice and safely, and I just wanted to say thank you so much again for watching. Burnham Market was a really beautiful event, really lovely venue. A bit disappointed with the 20 penalties, but that's, you know, it is what it is, and it gives us time, lots of room for improvement. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.